Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. We'll get to our best bets, a little same-game parlay for the Thursday nighter tonight. Green Bay, Detroit. Owen Wilson locking in their pick. Packers plus 3.5 at Ford Field tonight. Pierre LeBrun in just a moment on the Leafs winning again last night. Joseph Woll playing the way he's playing. What happens with Fraser Minton, considering how well he's playing and how much Craig Berube appears to be a fan. And we had some breaking news in the last hour that Luke Richardson was fired as the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Crazy stuff for that to happen.
Yeah.
I submit it. But I wanted to ask you guys both the question. Saying the playoffs started tomorrow, who would be your starting goaltender? Hazy B? Go first.
Joseph Woll. That's
Joe
my
from
starter.
the Bridge. Your name is
listen,
Joe from the Bridge.
You got to consider Stolarz has been hot all year. Woll has been the last 7 starts, effectively unbeatable. I think he's just got a bit of a higher ceiling, and I'm going with Woll. I might go Stolarz game 2. You didn't ask me who starts game 2.
Give me a break, dude.
You didn't
What
ask
are
me
you,
on Saturday
Monty?
night game 2.
Monty Hayes
I might be pulling a Monty here.
Dude, you just went from Joe from the Bridge Hayes to Monty Hayes.
Monty's a stud.
It's a great question.
Thanks.
The only reason I would lean
You don't get credit
Woll,
for that. Noodles
Yeah, I do. That's
no.
No.
That's
I'm
not a
giving
great
you
question, Tally.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to buy myself some time here so I can think my process through. I think
You got to name the
Woll.
goalie first.
I would lean Woll, and here's why.
Oh,
Hold on. Here's why.
Interesting.
As much as
Professional NHL.
Hold on a second here. Woll started in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he has some experience. He doesn't have a ton. Stolarz got it into one game, and that was a mop-up. I was at the game in Edmonton. It was that 8, whatever that was, that drubbing, the game 4
or something.
Game
I think
4
it was,
in Edmonton, where we thought, okay, they're going to get their one, and that's it. That was he came in, and I think he allowed 2 or 3 goals, but I think what in a perfect world, the Toronto Maple Leafs want to see what Joseph Woll can do. And can he be a 55, 60-game starter? The biggest challenge with Woll hasn't been ability, it's been health and availability.
Mm-hmm.
So, Noodles, would you start playing him more? Like, not more, but a little more often where it's not like a rotation-type system?
I think it's the chicken or the egg, too, because Anthony Stolarz has done nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm. I get it, but we had the convo with Jonas last week where he was like, we were like, one of these guys has got to play in the playoffs, and he's like, you can't be crazy. What was his phrase, Hayes?
You're asking for trouble.
You're asking for trouble. Playing a guy 3 times in 8 days, it's like one of them has to play a lot in the playoffs.
Who would you start game 1 tonight?
I would start Stolarz.
Yeah, honestly,
you guys are total Toronto media people.
Just
where it's
contrarian.
like, you
just
forget about the work. Remember, 2 weeks ago we were like, Anthony Stolarz has grabbed a hold of
Outstanding.
this. It's his team,
and
then
right.
all of a sudden, 10 days later, you guys went Joe from the Bridge. You're like, he's done. Let's not forget about last year, Game 7 in the playoffs didn't start. This year, Game 1. There's something I don't trust yet, and I'm not completely willing to buy 100% in. Therefore, I'm starting Stolarz. Playoff start tomorrow.
Okay, that's reasonable.
It's a very reasonable take. Like, I think this is a great debate because we are only 5 games in. So there isn't this long runway of, okay, we know what Anthony Stolarz looks like. We know what Joseph Woll looks like. Like, this is still, not even a third of the season. And Stolarz, you're right. 10 days ago, we're like, this guy, Joe from the Bridge is putting Vezina, stuff into our tweet or into our group text, which, Stolarz has been brilliant.
Why couldn't he be nominated for, if he, let's say he starts 45 games, leads the league in save percentage. Could he be third for the Vezina? Could that happen?
Yes. And here's why. Is I don't have it off the top of my head, and I should have done this research. How many games did Linus Ullmark play when he won the Vezina? I think it was 49, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say 4. It was in the 40s, high 40s.
So he has to hit that threshold where it's, mid to high 40s. And again, I'm sure there's other instances, but I thought about that today. I was like, if somebody is going to, get the nod to be a Vezina. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, they have to they got to have a lot of games, but I don't know what is the low threshold of the games. And I thought of Ullmark a couple years ago.
I think it's at least 45 plus.
Yeah,
then you're the clear cut.
Come on.
It probably should be 50 plus. It probably should be.
Yeah.
But Ullmark was so good, and the Bruins were historically great that year. And his numbers were staggering. And I don't think 45, 49 starts wins it unless you have some sort of outrageous statistic. But if you have really good stats, 47, 48 starts, you could be nominated. You could be third or fourth. I think that's reasonable.
That was your point.
And that's exactly
we got to get to Pierre, but maybe tomorrow there's a hashtag at play. If the playoffs started tomorrow.
Okay.
Couple decisions.
I like that.
I like that Minton, idea. Guys like that, right?
I like that idea. Maybe another bonanza. Last Friday.
Bonanza. And it could be league-wide, too. It could be league-wide.
Okay, here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. Who would you start, Pierre, if the playoffs started tomorrow night? Joseph Woll or Anthony Stolarz?
Woo! Ouchie.
It's a horny question, Pierre, isn't it?
How can you go wrong? I think based on the current, like if the playoffs started tomorrow, that's literally the premise of your question.
Yep.
You're not asking me about April. You're asking me about December 6th. I go with Stolarz just based on the body of work through 2 months.
Thank you.
Listen, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Like I can 100% see what O's saying, and believe me, I feel the same way about Anthony Stolarz. Like, I love the guy. I think he's been
great.
So amazing. The only thing that pushed me over is that Woll has started games in the playoffs. You
didn't ask me the second question. Who do I think will actually start in April?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Who do you have?
Joseph Woll.
You going to be Joseph Woll?
Right.
Yeah. So my point is, Stolarz has earned it to this point on the calendar. But I think Woll will take it a bit of a bigger role by the time we get to the playoffs.
All right, let me ask you this question, Pierre. Go ahead, if you want to jump on that.
I just want to say the one thing about Woll, guys, when you watch him, and Jamie knows scouting goaltenders, being an NHL-level goaltender, what this actually means. I just kind of have an idea. He looks like he's really talented as a goaler. Like a goalie. Like, you know what I mean? He looks like he's got I don't even know what that means. But you look at him, you're like, that stance, that positioning, it looks like he's got ultra talent in there, which is a huge positive for him. Go ahead, Pierre.
Big time.
No, I completely agree. And one of the reasons that I thought, and again, I'm going to radio myself, but you guys remember this conversation back in September. One of the reasons why I thought if the Leafs would take to Berube, one of the other layers to it all is I thought Woll is the real deal. And he just needed to stay healthy. But I thought he could give them their best goaltending in several years. And they need that come playoff time.
If the playoffs started tomorrow, we got a theme going here. And everyone's healthy.
Tomorrow's going to be a bonanza.
Everyone's healthy. Is Fraser Minton playing the game?
Wow.
What a show we're having.
This is rocking in the 6 p.m. hour, man. Rocking.
Do it, Pierre. Do it.
Tomorrow, I'd say yes, but in real life, April, I think...
Dude, this is not about anything else but tomorrow. Is he starting?
Because March 7th plays into this in terms of real life April playoffs.
Right,
tomorrow,
true enough.
If the playoffs start tomorrow, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
I think so too, man. Berube likes him. He looks good. He looks comfortable. Again, he's still running off adrenaline, so we'll see what happens when they hit a big road trip.
Okay, follow-up here. If Minton was playing, whose feelings would have to be hurt that they weren't?
Well, I'd probably start with Nick Robertson.
Yeah. That was a slam dunk, Pierre. That was a Coors Light softball.
Camp.
Yeah, Pacioretty. Pacioretty play over him?
Camp.
David Camp. Pontus Holmberg.
You know what's fascinating is you guys should do that tomorrow and keep all your answers and then compare them to how you feel on the eve of the real playoffs.
That's a great idea.
Because what's fascinating is so much will change probably, including the impact of March 7th.
Doogie, lock that down.
Yeah.
Lock
Well,
it
what's going to
down.
change is how much more we hate someone in March.
Well, or somebody else has pushed through, or an injury, or an opportunity.
There could be a trade. There could be anything.
Yeah, I got
That's
one
what
for
I mean.
Pierre.
Like March 7th. Yeah.
And I got one for Pierre more about. So I said at the start of the season, we were talking about Mitch Marner, and I said, you know what's going to happen? This guy is going to be an absolute rock star. He's going to. Now I was off in my games, right, Hayes? Like, didn't I say like he was going to have 20 points in his first 10 games or something? But he's had, what has he got?
He's got
40
36
points
now and 25.
He's got 36 and 25.
Yep.
And now, what do we take from this? Like, do we start the chatter? Like, what's the contract look like? Does he want to stay? Like, will this get noisy for his contract, or we forget about that and go, let him play, and we'll talk about it in the off season after they've gone through their playoffs?
Yeah, well, I created a bit of noise last week on the U.S. Thanksgiving Insider Trading where we talked about the Marner and Rantanen contract negotiation parallel. And there are just so many parallels, right? Like, both those guys are complete studs. Rantanen's having another unbelievable year. They're both pending UFAs, and yet they're both dealing with so-called internal caps. And it's just a reality. It's not trying to bring more noise to it, but I can tell you that when Rantanen's agent's talking to the Avalanche, Nathan McKinnon's deal comes up, his cap number, and when Marner's camp is talking to the Leafs, there's no doubt in my mind that Austin Matthews' cap number comes up. That's just life. It's business. That's all. But it is fascinating, and it led to a lot of people, I think, reacting to that IT last week, saying, "But what cap number are you comfortable with giving Mitch Marner?" The guy's been unbelievable. By the way, in particular, when Austin Matthews was out, Marner really carried the team, I thought. But is that number for you $12 million, $13 million? Does it go over? Do you go over Matthews' cap number because you acknowledge that it's not about the AAV, but the percentage of the cap, and the cap is going to,
No, I'm just I'm not doing it because I'm putting a stop to it. Where it's like, you guys are great players and everything, but he is different than everyone else. He's the cap. He's our Nick Lidstrom.
Right.
As far as nobody's making more, and enough's enough. Do you guys? It's about the team. Craig Berube's brought that philosophy as far as on ice, and now we're going to do it off the ice.
I agree. I think that's the way it should be. I mean, and it's up to Marner to either deal with it or not.
That's
if he wants to go somewhere else, so be it. I mean, at some point you got to put your stake in the ground.
And here's the other thing, though. It depends on when this all happens, right? Like, if you're having these conversations now, are you having these conversations after a deep run? Are you having these are you having it close to July 1st where you already feel like where your marketplace is going to be set, or could be? There might be other teams that are sniffing, going, don't sign because we've got this amount for you over here, or whatever. Like, again, Mitch Marner.
Wait a minute, that's tampering.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Well, and he's confident in knowing that he's going to make a fortune.
That doesn't happen.
Right. Same with Rantanen. Like, these guys, they know what's going to be out there. They may not love the market, like the place they actually have to go to get that money, but they're well aware of who they are. They're superstar players. There's going to be a massive opportunity for a blank check waiting for them. It's a matter of whether or not they want to go. I guess let's continue with the playoff theme. Game 1 of the playoffs in April. Do you think he has signed a contract extension by then?
I'm going to say yes. I think they get this done.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know when. I just think Mitch Marner sees himself as a Leaf, and I think they do eventually get this done. But it is fascinating, and I don't know how much. This is getting in the weeds too much, but there's a world in which maybe he could take less percentage of the cap than Matthews, but the AAV is still higher. If that makes any sense, if the cap keeps going up, the whole thing is so fascinating to me. Like, people like us, the four of us, we look at cap numbers, right? I mean, cap number, and this is the cap number. Agents that negotiate deals more and more, they look at the percentage of the cap, not the cap number. Mm-hmm. And the cap's going up seriously over the next couple of years. So what I'm saying is, I absolutely respect and understand the position, I think, of both the Avalanche and the Leafs when they say, well, this is what our franchise player is making. in terms of McKinnon and Matthews. But I also understand the agents for both those players probably saying, hey, I know that, but the cap's going up another this and another that.
Yeah.
Talk about long-term extensions here. So I have no idea how that's going to, play out in the end. But you asked me the question. I think Marner ends up signing an extension.
Okay.
So I guess in the end we got our answer too, because we're talking about his contract instead of it. We knew it was going to come up at some point, but it just, I don't know. I'm more like, is this going to be a focal point, or this guy plays well and we're going to talk about it all season, or is it just going to be?
I don't think
ebbs
so,
and
man.
flows,
I don't
no?
listen. It's going to come up from time to time. What I would say about Mitch, because we always wondered this, or I wondered this, like how would he react to what happened after the last playoff loss? After it was loud around him in the summer, it has not affected him in any way possible.
Yeah,
like
good
nothing.
point.
So you got your answer on how he's going to handle heartbreak, failure, whatever. Is he's going to show back up the next year and be one of the 15 or 20 best players in the league? Like, that's just what he does consistently, and that's what
That is what
Austin,
he is. It's amazing how it's all of a sudden changed, where last year from the Leafs themselves they said we've seen some patterns, and we all know what they are. And now everyone's just bought back in. And I love being positive. I love watching them play, and everyone's playing amazing. But to say that this contract is now going to get done, I do find that crazy, Pierre.
well,
Yeah, we'll see.
that's how the Leafs
You
have
may be
always
right.
operated, though. How can you be surprised anymore? They re-signed Austin, they re-signed Willie,
Well,
they brought Marner back. They still have Tavares here. Like, they didn't. They just keep doing the same thing.
And I think legitimately, you may remember, we all talked about this, Drake, CJ, and I, and you guys. It was a genuine, I think, thing for the Marner camp to say to people after last year. They just wanted to start this year and see how things went. That was a genuine emotion, I think. Like,
right.
let's not decide anything right now. Let's get the camp, start the season, and see how things go, and then we'll, start talking to the Leafs. So I think all that has happened. And the other aspect of all this that I think we all had a question about, and now we've had it answered, I think, to a large degree, is how is he going to react to Craig Berube? Like, how is he going to play for the new coach who, is a little more old school and wants his team to play it a different way? Well, we got our answer. He's flourishing.
Yep.
So that's another important part of the conversation that you have if you're Mitch Marner and you're deciding whether or not you want to stay, I think.
He's fit in well with Craig Berube. I mean, they all have at this point. They're all playing well. The team's rocking, and it's generally uber positive across the board. That is not the case in Chicago, Pierre, where it was announced last hour Luke Richardson has been fired as their head coach. They're dead last in the league. We just saw them roll through town.
They stink.
There's no life to this team. Bedard's in a bad place. Like, I can't say I'm shocked. I'm not. I wouldn't be shocked if ownership poked around and said, "What are we doing? We're not selling tickets. It's getting ugly here." But I don't know what a new coach is going to do. Like, what is a reasonable expectation in terms of what a new coach is going to bring to the Chicago Blackhawks?
Yeah, no, all great questions. And, so they promoted Anders Sorensen, who was their head coach in the AHL in Rockford. And I can tell you the Hawks are really high on him. And so even though he was only announced as the interim head coach today, I think they want him to really take it, although the plan right now is for them to do a coaching search at the end of the season. And again, with him probably as a real candidate. But I can tell you this was a really tough day for GM Kyle Davidson. I mean, Luke Richardson is as good as they come in terms of likable people around the league and a guy that has just so much respect around the league. This was really hard on the Hawks to have to fire him today. He was in the last year of his deal. He had a 3-year deal. This was the third year, although the club had a 4th-year option, but obviously decided to fire him today. And the obvious question is why, because no one thought the Blackhawks were making the playoffs this year. But I think where things got dicey here is that while they didn't think they were making the playoffs, they thought, kind of reminds me when we talk about Montreal, they thought this is the year where they make a step, where they get to march and get to play real games and still miss out, but you feel better about the process and development of the young players, and clearly not seeing that to the degree they needed to here. And Luke Richardson pays the price today.
Yeah, and I wonder where, like, Connor Bedard in particular comes into play. and how he's looked, and he just looks kind of like a sad 19-year-old kid. It's kind of tough to watch.
Some concern, not concerning, but weird comments where he's like, I'm playing terrible. There's 100 things I can do better than hockey. I never thought I'd hear him saying those types of things.
Mm-hmm. Listen, and yes, that's the first thing I thought of too, to answer your question. I mean, we talked about maybe the development of some of the younger players not being where it should be. How do you not think of him? But he's not the first young phenom to feel this in his second or third year. Like in his case, it's his second year. Remember Nathan McKinnon had a year early on in his career where we're like, whoa, that guy's down on himself. Remember that? And it's hard to even believe that was the case, but it happened to him. So, it does happen. I have a pretty large degree of faith Connor Bedard will figure it out, but you can't pretend that can't be part of the big picture here in a decision like this today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great point on, like, I've heard that a few times, Pierre, where people have said, like, let's just give the kid a little bit of chance to grow here. You know, McKinnon played on that Colorado team that had like 47 points. Mm-hmm. Like, Patrick left and Bedard came, or Bednar came in.
Duchesne asked for a trade too around that time.
It was
guys, we all have to admit that this is not on the trajectory of this type of player for the most part. Like, this is even like McKinnon coming in was damn good, but he wasn't. I don't know if he was considered like one of the wonder kids, like McDavid, Matthews.
Right.
He ultimately turned into one of the best, but it's like usually the second year of this type of guy, you're like, is this guy going to win a Hart Trophy in year 2? And now we're talking about this. It's shocking, and there's no other way around that. That's what it is.
Well, and not for nothing, and this is probably unfair, but this is what we do. We cover the game, and you can't not help but notice how unbelievable out of the gates Macklin Celebrini has been in San Jose. My goodness.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's been great.
I saw the hazy list of players for the Olympics in 14 months in Milan, Italy. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's going to make it, but I got news for you. He's putting himself on the radar for that team.
He should be. He absolutely could be. I mean, he's so young, it may be difficult for him to get there. It's almost like a world junior player who's 16 trying to make it. But he's been outstanding. And don't kid yourself. What San Jose's been doing lately factors in also, I think, to Chicago. Chicago's like, we started the rebuild before these guys, and look what they're doing. Now all of a sudden they're winning a bunch of games, and they look pretty good. That factors in as well as you compare and contrast. But we'll see, Pierre. Good stuff, buddy. Thanks for playing along. Make sure you tune into the Bonanza tomorrow. It's going to be rocking. I can't wait.
I'll be listening for sure. And,
yes.
Pierre, tweet us in some hashtags. We're using the hashtag if the playoffs started tomorrow. It's going to be a Bonanza. If you have some thoughts, send some in. We're going to read them out loud.
Please do.
Right on.
All right.
Sounds good, guys.
Au revoir. Thank you, Pierre. There's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. All right, we sent Al's brother out somewhere in the city with a pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. One last clue for the week. I think I know where he is now. My mom actually sent me a text yesterday saying, I know where he is. My mom's playing along.
Let's hear this last one.
Let's hear the last clue.
Hey, OD fans, it's Thursday, which means it's time for your final clue to find out where is Al's brother. We're giving away Leafs and Sabres tickets for Sunday, December 15th. Here is your final clue. I might be inspired to go on my own little Leafs rant here. The spot was often used as a backdrop to a popular rant segment on a Canadian comedy series.
All right. Well, when you hear the cue to call tomorrow, the first caller through with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see Leafs Sabres again on December 15th. Find Al's brother, brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. Best bet still to come. Steve Phillips on a primer before the winter meetings. Where does he see Soto going? How close could the Jays be? What could the Jays do if they don't get Soto? And we'll play that J.J. Redick clip from last night because the Lakers are getting absolutely destroyed basically every game. That and more still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Steve Phillips coming up, the winter meetings primer. But I just saw a stat online the Lakers, they have been getting absolutely dummied, like absolutely destroyed, and they have been outscored by 70 combined points in their last two games, and that is the worst point differential over any two-game stretch in franchise history. That's how bad it is.
It's ugly, eh?
70-point differential in two losses. And J.J. Redick is absolutely – talk about the underpants, Cam. This guy is sweating.
That's what he deserved, though, man. It's like when you let one guy say, I do a podcast with this guy, let him be the coach. Like, what the hell are you expecting?
Exactly.
Nonsense.
And it's the Lakers, man. This isn't the Bobcats. Like, this is the Lakers we're talking about.
But didn't they start off reasonably well?
They
where you're
had
like,
a great
hey,
start.
Maybe
Great
there's
start.
something there. And then all of a sudden, now they're getting waxed.
Yep.
And then you hear the comments like, these guys just quit on J.J. Redick. And it's like, now you got a serious problem.
Well,
and he's begging. He's like, yeah, standard comments. He's like, I own this. Okay, I own this, but I'd like a little ownership from the players that are going
let's
on the
play it. This is it's a classic. I own it, but not really. Just like Gerard Mayo in New England. I referenced that earlier. I'm trying, man, but once they're on the field, what do you want out of me? I'm only Gerard Mayo. Here's J.J. Redick, kind of taking some ownership, but also really wanting people to understand the players, they stink right now.
I'm embarrassed. We're all embarrassed. It's not a game that I thought we had the right fight, the right professionalism. Not sure what was lost in translation. There has to be some ownership on the court, and I'll take all the ownership in the world. This is my team, and I lead it, and I'm embarrassed, but I can't physically get us organized. I can't physically be into the basketball. I can't physically talk and call out reds and physically call out coverages, and it's I'm not. And by the way, I'm not blaming players. That's not. I own this. But gonna need some ownership on the court as well. It's there's not a sense from me that we're together right now.
So
Dude,
he
that's a
owns
team
it, but
with
he's going to need a
LeBron
little bit of
James
ownership from
on
the
it.
players.
That's a team with LeBron on it.
I know.
Yeah.
LeBron, Anthony Davis, and he just looks defeated. And the thing is about JJ, he's a confident guy. He's an outspoken guy. He was a player, right? Like, he's got skin in the game. He can say, I played.
But you saw that face. That was a face of, what the hell did I do this
Scrabble.
for?
How did I get into this position? And people are going to come at me because he, again, is bold, comes off as arrogant sometimes. I can appreciate that. When you got takes and opinions, you hand them out. But remember, he had that famous clip talking about the old school NBA where he's like, they were plumbers and, firefighters or whatever you were playing against, when he was talking about, I want to say, Jerry West or Bob Cousy. Like, it was a really disrespectful comment about, like, old school NBA players.
Right.
And now you're coaching like this and you look and sound like this, you're not going to get a lot of support in the NBA community. Like, people are going to be all over him and all over the Lakers and LeBron. And it's just a matter of time before LeBron distances himself too, right? And starts thinking, I'm going to go a different direction here, because that's inevitable. It's going to happen. All right, best bet still to come. It sounds inevitable that Juan Soto will eventually choose a team. And according to Jeff Passan and others, we believe it'll happen before Monday when the winter meetings begin down in Dallas. Here's a guy that will be down here and a guy that will, I'm sure, know what's going on. Here's our main man, Steve Phillips, our TSN baseball insider. Are you buying that, Steve, that by Monday we will definitely have an answer from Juan Soto?
Yeah, I am. I think so. I mean, look, we're at a point where there's only so many times you're going to go back and forth, and, you've got that ability to, the player controls the timing, but, you've got a limited number of teams. He's getting to the point where he wants to narrow down the number of teams that are in. And I think that it's just now the final negotiations taking place with all of it. So I'd be surprised if it's not done by then.
Steve, where do you think? I mean, are we really going to go through this? Just tell me this: are the Jays in or out on this?
Well, I mean, I honestly, I think they're like the fourth of the five teams. I just don't see, with all the things that Soto said were important to him, like the ability to win now. Well, of the 5 teams, the Jays had the worst record of that group. Yeah. To win for the long term. Well, the other organizations have better farm systems right now at the upper levels than the Jays do, and they've got more young players at the major league level than the Jays do. And so, I start to look at it and think, well, then it's going to come down to money. Well, he's played in New York. He's played with the Yankees, went to a World Series. He's played in the American League East. He's played, against Boston. David Ortiz is putting on the full court press. Steve Cohen is an owner that is unmatched among the other owners in all of this, the Mets owner. And so I look at it and think the only real separator for the Jays can be the amount of money they offer. And then, we heard the report that they might have the highest offer on the table. The question is, how far beyond everybody else do they have to go to convince him that it's enough money to maybe look the other way about winning in the short term, about the depth of the farm system, the direction, they don't have Vladdy signed beyond this year. And so you look at it and think, well, sure, I might win this year, but what about next year? You don't have Guerrero or Bichette signed, so what's it going to look like? So it's going to come down to really money separating. So I'm not surprised to hear they're going to have the most on the table, but I don't know they're going to have enough on the table to get them to choose Toronto.
So, Steve, let's say Soto is not realistic or it just doesn't happen. We were talking yesterday, like the Jays, they need a win in the offseason. Like, what would you constitute a win for the Jays to be heading in the right direction, for the fan base to go, okay, now you're cooking, or now we see where you're headed type of thing?
Yeah, Bregman or Adames at third, Santander in the outfield as a switch hitter, and then adding, Fried into the rotation. That'd be pretty good. And
yeah, that's a lot of money.
And then Tanner Scott in the bullpen. Right. I mean, I think that's kind of where they are right now. You need. If I had to do any one thing, I would not add Fried, and I would just focus on the offense. I understand they want to get somebody and stagger the pitching and everything else, but putting a big investment into pitching right now when your offense needs to be fixed, I don't understand. And so I keep reading that they're in on all the pitchers, and it's great if you can afford it, but if you're going to add another pitcher and you're not going to address the offense, and it needs to be changed. And so I think it's interesting. Are they going to sign? Because I effectively think that their pursuit of Soto means they've made a choice of Soto over Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any aggressiveness in signing Vladdy. I don't know that there's any reason to believe they can afford both of them. And I almost wonder that if they get Soto signed, whether they trade Vlad, then sign like a Christian Walker or an Alonso to play first base, that'll be cheaper than Guerrero will for the long term. And then get Bregman at third and completely retool the team. And so it's so hard to know where they are right now. If they don't get Soto, and I don't believe they will, then I think you've got to look at Santander. The problem is this, that the fallback for the Yankees, let's say the Mets get Soto. You know who the fallback for the Yankees is? Santander and Bregman or Adames
right
at third base. And, by the way, Fried and Burns. I mean, they've met with those guys, and so they're going to be competing against the same group of people, including the Red Sox and the Yankees, and the Mets will be in on Alonso again and trying to build their team around him. And so I just think it's going to be so interesting. So I honestly think Plan B, C, and D is more interesting than Plan A is this offseason for so many of these different teams. Where do they pivot when they don't get the guy they want?
Steve, are you somewhat surprised at how things are being handled here with Vladdy? He had a great season, and it was like, okay, I think a lot of people thought this is your guy, get him signed. Are you surprised by this? And I can't believe I'm going to be talking about Instagram and him liking a tweet, but there was the picture of him and Soto and Devers with Red Sox jerseys on, liked by Vladdy Jr. What do you make of just Vladdy and his standing as of right now?
By the way, I don't even know who you are anymore, citing Instagram. Honestly, I have no idea.
He's a modern man.
Dude, I'm
He's
sorry,
a modern
Steve.
man is what he is.
I'm sorry,
what
buddy.
Has happened to you? So, I mean, I thought it might come up. I just didn't think it was going to be you.
Yeah.
So, I think that I would have made him my priority because I think that if they can afford both, then signing Vladdy would have gone a long way to convincing Soto about long-term commitment to winning, willing to spend money. It would have helped the marketing pitch to get him done first. And yet, it doesn't seem to be a priority. I keep hearing, well, these things get done in January, February. Only because you initiate them then. There's no reason to have to wait. And it almost feels like they've chosen Soto, and in some ways, if it's not Vladdy, then they've alienated him to the point he's not going to want to sign for the long term. Now, look, maybe they've had the conversation. We want to visit this. We're trying to get the Soto thing done. We'll show you how committed we are. We get Soto. You'll see that we want to spend money on you too. But I would have thought that signing Vladdy, their own guy, would have been the priority, then going to get Soto after it. So it's not exactly the way I would have done it. Doesn't mean that it won't work their way if they still try it on the back end. But I think it's going to look, enough money's going to talk. And I don't put a lot of stock in guys liking pictures and videos and tweets and those things out there. Sometimes they just get cute. Sometimes they're like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting. And they don't mean that, they don't understand that it means that it's going to create a stir for it. So I don't worry too much about it. But I do worry about where Vladdy believes he is in relation to the rest of the organization, especially if they don't get Soto, then they desperately need Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
With Steve Phillips ahead of, again, the winter meetings, which begin in Dallas on Monday, one thing that is interesting about their salary structure is they're not committed to a lot of guys long-term, Steve. And that's why I'm wondering where the Vladdy dance, the Bichette, like no one's even talking about Bo and the idea of extending him. Like that's not even on the table. It's not even coming up, nor do I think it should be at this point. But how would this conversation go down? Like ownership, Shapiro, Atkins. Like if you're Ross Atkins, you're begging to have money to spend. Like you're begging to have a big offseason. You need it. I would think Shapiro should be feeling some heat. But if you're the owner and you're sitting there and you're being told, okay, we're in on Soto. Awesome. That's going to cost me a lot of money. But then we're committed to winning. Okay, we're in on that. All right, we're in on Freed. That's going to cost money. If they miss on guys, could you see the owner stepping in and saying, wait a minute, who are we trying to get? Why don't we reset? We're a year or two away from almost having nothing committed long-term where we could really change things up. But how might that jive with Shapiro and Atkins, who have been here for a decade, and I'm sure are feeling a ton of heat?
Yeah, I think they're at such a critical turning point for this organization. I do. I think that whether it's getting Soto done or getting Vladimir Guerrero signed for the long term is critical, because if they don't and they lose both of them to free agency, sure, you have financial flexibility, but it's really hard to get players to say yes to come to Toronto sometimes. Yep. And so when you've got a homegrown player who has grown up there, enjoys it there, understands that it's a great place to play and a great place to live, you want to keep that guy, because it's hard to get the next guy to say yes. You're going to have to overpay him in many regards to do it, to get them to do it, because they just don't understand until they finally get there and play there how amazing it is. And so I think they're at a really critical point right now. If they don't get Soto signed and they don't get Guerrero signed and they go to free agency, then at that point you've got some pitchers signed beyond this year, and then what do you have left? Like you got Springer, right? And you don't have much left. Varsov's free agent end of the year, and so I think it is so important to get Soto and or Guerrero to be able to stay in the win now mode, because if they don't, you're right, then they might as well sort of back off a little bit, retool, and go. And the question is, who's making those decisions for the long term?
Right. Man,
Steve, how about this one? How about this one? With sticking with my new school philosophy. How about you get Vladdy signed and there's a golden bat in play? What do you think about that?
Let's go.
What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah. So, I think we would. So I hate it and I love it at the same time. Like,
what do you love about it?
So, I would like to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting 150 more at-bats during the course of the season. I think it'd be great. And a chance to drive in more runs. I think it adds offense to the game. I think it challenges some of the strategy. You're going to bring in a right-handed reliever against the Yankees, and the next thing you know, Juan Soto is going to get back-to-back at-bats against that right-handed reliever, right? He's up. And he's going to get on. You're going to put a runner in for him. He's going to come back and hit again, like we all did in playing in the playgrounds growing up. And so, there's some things that can be really interesting with the strategy. And I'd rather have Vladdy hitting than Addison Barger getting at bats. I would. I'd rather he take those at bats. So I think it could add an element of that. but it messes up statistics forever. I mean, they'll never be the same. Guys will have 200 RBIs during the course of the season at some point because they're getting 150 more at bats. And so, it messes up some of the history and tradition of the game. And then the question is, where does it stop? Like, okay, how many times do you do it? Maybe you can just do it in extra innings where instead of putting the runner on second, you allow the golden at-bat rule to happen in the extra innings where you can then take advantage of it. You play it more like regular baseball. So there's some things they can do. But I think the other part of it is it started with the Savannah Bananas, which automatically kind of crushes the credibility of the idea. Like, guys are running around in banana-colored uniforms and the guy's out there with a top hat.
Dancing.
I don't know.
Tough.
And then if the ball's hitting the stands and the fan catches it, the hitter's out as long as he doesn't bobble it in any way. And so, is that next for Major League Baseball? So I don't know. I think it's a trial balloon floated by the commissioner, and owners got intrigued by it, but the baseball people I don't think are going to like it. So, and I will tell you, owners get their way, not general managers, when it comes to rule changes. And so we'll see what happens with it, but I don't suspect it's going to happen soon.
No, I can't imagine it will. But again, if it was a trial balloon, I think the reaction has been pretty overwhelmingly against it. But you'd expect that from old school, baseball lifers.
Yeah.
That was always going to be the case. But there's been so much change already. Steve, you and I were talking about that on SportsCenter earlier in the week. I mean, think about what Rob Manfred has done to this game or with this game, and a lot of them have been positive changes. But you go back 20 years ago, people would be like, "What the hell's going on here in modern baseball?"
Right. We have a clock in a baseball game right now.
Clocks at a baseball park.
That was the beauty. What everybody bragged about baseball in the past was there are no clocks, and now there are.
Yep, exactly. It's all come full circle. All right, Steve. We'll catch you when you're down at the winter meetings. Thank you for doing this.
All right, I'm going to go hook up and connect with you guys on Instagram now.
Please do.
Right,
send us a DM. UNO, send him a DM. Thank you, Steve. There's Steve Phillips, our TSN baseball insider. Yeah, listen, it'd be great if what's going to happen here is Soto's going to sign with the Yankees, I think, and then the Jays better quickly commit to spending a lot of money, because if they don't, if it's another
dangerous game, man, to just throw a bag at somebody in a management position saying you better spend it, you got to spend it, and then all of a sudden they just start doing stupid things.
I hear you.
It leads you down a path of not thinking things out. You're just like, well, give me something.
Yeah,
but they got feathers last year. It seemed like it was Ohtani or nothing, and then.
Okay, Jamie. All I know is they got feathers with Ohtani, but then their plan B was nonsense.
Justin Turner.
Well, exactly. Now, to your point, though, they didn't commit long-term to anybody. Justin Turner they could get rid of. Kiermaier they could get rid of. Kiner Falefa they could get rid of. So which one's it going to be? Because if it's no Soto and a bunch of just guys, they're going to get crushed.
Okay, but how much of a tip of the cap you going to give to the management team for saying they brought in guys that they could get rid of? Like, what the hell does that even mean?
That's what I'm saying. That's why, if you go and get Bregman, if you go and, maybe you're in on Pete Alonso or something like that, those are names. Those are big names. I
love Bregman. I think he's a winner. Obviously, he's a winner, and he's got some jam. And I just like him. I like what he brings to the table. He's got to work out, but I've always liked him.
Yeah. I hear you, but it could be Springer 2.0. You got him after Houston was done.
True enough, man.
And you overpaid him, and he's not the same guy anymore. And
miles on these guys is massive.
True. Yeah,
it's huge.
Right.
You saw Josh Donaldson, how good he was, and then just boom, gone.
Hit a wall, and that was it. It was over. And if you're committed, man, look at Springer. George had a really tough year. He's had a tough couple of years.
Yeah.
He's had stretches where he turned it back around. But he's getting paid a fortune, man. He's making like $25 million a year, and for years to come. And it's just you're not getting the old Springer back. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come on the Thursday night or tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same game parlay in seconds of the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Packers plus 3.5, taking the points tonight. Packers plus 3.5. Tucker Kraft anytime touchdown scorer, and Green Bay over their team total of 24.5 tonight. I could see a shootout at Ford Field. I think it'll be a great game. I could see the Packers winning outright. That parlay paying plus 443. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is the exclusive home of the OverDrive Same Game Parlay. Please play responsibly. 19 plus. Physically located in Ontario. All right, we've got Raptors in action tonight. Grady Dick is back. He's playing. Jakob Poeltl's out. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in town. Should be a good one. The Raptors have been playing well, man. They've been playing really well. Scotty Barnes has been great.
Yeah.
Let's see what they got. It's a big test tonight. Thunder are legit. So, big one for them. Packers-Lions tonight. We got a bunch of hockey games, and the Leafs are playing Washington tomorrow. So, here we go.
Lots of good viewing tonight, and lots to break down. And what are we doing tomorrow?
I'd like
Friday.
the fans to contribute. Hashtag if the playoffs started tomorrow, have your question. We'll answer them live on air.
I love it.
Good. I love it.
Another bonanza, man. It's another bonanza.
Friday bonanzas.
Friday
awesome.
bonanzas. It's getting a little bit crazy here. I love it. All right. Good stuff. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Watch for a Lions blowout. I'm just saying. TG. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.